President Trump is sparking international backlash over his controversial comments on immigration. Errol Barnett is traveling with the president in Florida and has the latest.
President Trump is facing new criticism surrounding his use of an expletive to describe non-white nations. In a private meeting in the Oval Office on Thursday about how to reform the immigration system, Democratic Senator Dick Durbin suggested to the president a compromise on the diversity visa lottery program. Mr. Trump wondered aloud why the U.S. would want more Haitians. And later, when African immigrants were being discussed, President Trump asked, quote, "Why are we having all these people from expletive countries come here?" He added, "We should bring in more people from places like Norway." Once word got out, the backlash was swift and continues as more countries weigh in. The African Union released a statement highlighting its infuriation, dismay, and outrage. Botswana called the comments racist and, along with Haiti, summoned its U.S. envoy to further explain the remarks. Senator Dick Durbin calls the remarks hate-filled, vile, and vulgar. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who was also in the room, said he stood up to the president. In this statement, writing, quote, "Following the comments by the president, I said my piece directly to him. Diversity has always been our strength, not our weakness." But House Speaker Paul Ryan was more reserved in his criticism, saying the comments were unfortunate and unhelpful, possibly because the frenzy on President Trump's remarks could jeopardize any bipartisan progress to fund the government. President Trump has not only denied he used such language, but this morning tweeted he does not believe Democrats really want to see a deal on DACA. "They are all talk and no action," he wrote, referring to the debate over the children of undocumented immigrants. Meanwhile, on a completely separate topic, the White House doctor declared Friday President Trump is in excellent health. And while we don't know for sure, Dr. Ronnie Jackson will take to the press briefing room on Tuesday to detail what he found in his results. We're told he's using the weekend to go over his test and lab results. Rena?
For the latest on the fallout from the president's comments, we want to bring in Markos Kounalakis in San Francisco. He's a foreign affairs columnist for McClatchy News and a visiting fellow at the Hoover Institute. Markos, how is the president's message being received abroad?
Well, look, having the potty mouth president make the kinds of statements that he's making obviously makes it very difficult for our diplomats to advance our values and our interests around the world. So the difference is they're not taking us as seriously as they used to, and our diplomats are defending the indefensible.
The president has also been criticized for not focusing enough on Africa. There are some key ambassador spots open in countries like Egypt and South Africa. Why is it so important when you look at the continent of Africa? Why does it really matter when it comes to U.S. foreign policy?
Well, look, for the last decade, we've been actually building our force presence in Africa. AFRICOM is now a major part of our military engagement in Africa. It originally started as a soft power attempt to make sure that we were present with this fast-growing continent, economically vibrant continent. And we've been losing troops. I mean, we lost 4 Green Berets in Niger. We have lost a member of our military forces in Somalia. So clearly, the importance of Africa is something that's near and dear to our national security and also to our long-term interests.
I want to turn now and ask you about the Iran nuclear deal. The president is giving Europe and Congress one last chance to try and fix what he calls terrible flaws. It took years for the Obama administration to negotiate this. Do you really see renegotiating this in a manner that would appease the president as something that will happen?
You know, it's a very difficult question, and what he's trying to do is get our allies to actually do the renegotiation. He knows that it's an important deal we have to stay in because it's not just an America-Iran deal, it's a multilateral deal. So to the extent that he can try and get our allies to try and do some renegotiation, I think that will be, that's basically the strategy. But it's a very difficult strategy, especially when he's not making friends abroad amongst our allies.
Speaking of nuclear concerns, the president's gone pretty much back and forth on whether talking to North Korea is worthwhile. In light of the Olympic cooperation, we're seeing now the North and the South agreeing to work together with the Olympics. Is there anything that the U.S. can do to take advantage of this thawing of tensions potentially in the peninsula? And do you read it as a thawing of tensions?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, whenever you get the type of negotiations or even talks, after a 2-year hiatus, I think it's very important. And it's here, and actually, this is where there may actually be some good news regarding the president's approach. I mean, it's a very high-risk approach he's taken, one that for many feels like it's at the brink of nuclear war. But when you bring things to that level of tension and that level of critical understanding, then it focuses the mind. And it seems that at least it's getting the attention of those in Beijing, in Pyongyang, and certainly in Seoul. So, perhaps this very high-risk, very dangerous approach is having some payoff now.
I want to ask you about one of our closest allies. President Trump has canceled a visit to London where he was supposed to open the U.S. embassy there, the new one. He said that he's not going to because he's unhappy with the real estate deal, a deal that was started under the George W. Bush administration. How do you think this impacts America's relationship with London? Prime Minister May was one of the first leaders to come over and meet with the president in the White House. Is there reason to be concerned about one of our greatest allies?
Absolutely. I mean, this is unbelievable to us. The United States has for years claimed that we have a special relationship with the UK, and we do have a special relationship with the UK. I think in part the president fears going to London because of the level of demonstration and protest that he will likely face. But he's also been playing with the opposition to Theresa May. He's been friends with Nigel Farage. And, this is someone who wants to actually change the orientation of the UK, really strengthening the Brexit arguments, looking at Britain as a nation that is no longer going to hold up to its European commitments. So he's really playing with fire. But I think he's also personally afraid to go to London.
On the national security threat, Markos, what is your biggest concern with this type of rhetoric and dealing with diplomacy abroad? What do you think the president of the White House needs to be cognizant of or maybe watchful of in the coming weeks?
Well, boy, there are so many fronts, right? I mean, I see him as a serial arsonist on the political front around the world. What he's doing is setting fires where they don't need to be set, where we're trying to actually build bridges. So the greatest threat is, I suppose, the tensions in North Korea with the United States. I mean, there's nothing that's more critical than that particular issue right now because they have the capacity, and we've expressed through the president's words and at times actions a level of heightened tension. So I would continue looking at North Korea and the northeast China peninsula as one of our critical and most threatening national security concerns right now.
Markos Kounalakis, thank you so much for joining us, Markos.
Thank you, Rena.